Hi, it's Heather again. We're in the second video on community accountability. And in this one, we're going to look at a reparations framework as described by Mariam Kaba in We Do This Till We Free Us, which is a great book, which I've just spent about a week going through it and learning so much. And I'll be using a lot of what she's written for the next workshop theme video series on justice. So think back to what you said you would want to see happen if there was accountability. What does that mean to you? And you might recognize some of these things. And I'd love to hear about it if you go to the Facebook group and look for the guide on community accountability and share the things that you thought were important and compare them with other people in our community. Okay, so first would be repair. This is compensation for the pain and suffering. And as far as I understand it, and I'm no expert on this, I'm still learning just like you. And the way I understand it, we're talking about giving up some of our power and privilege to compensate what happened to that other person. So it can mean monetarily, it can mean giving up, like handing over some power to someone else. So stepping down in some way for the other person to be able to have a leadership position. Compensation for pain and suffering. Obviously, it just really depends on the context. It could be, taking your best friend out for the day, or giving them a pass to a spa, or just it really depends on the person that you are applying this reparations framework to. For children, it could be offering to do the other child's chores for the day to compensate for them having hurt the other one's feelings, or physically hurt them. So it's all contextual. We're not looking for, we might be looking for easy answers, but we're not going to find easy answers, and we don't want them anymore. We don't want them. We want to get really good at how uncomfortable it is to look at complexity and to look at appropriate responses. Just pause there, because that might have brought up a lot of stuff. Compensation for pain and suffering. You might think about times that you've been harmed, and what would compensation for your pain and suffering have looked like? When you've harmed somebody, what might that repair look like when you're compensating them for pain and suffering? Feel free to pause the video and think about this. Journal about it. Go into the Facebook. And I do offer these as live workshops as well that you can book, so that you can do this with me or with a lot of other people. Okay, the next one is restoration. So this is around, as far as I understand it, this is about restoring the relationship. So repair was kind of transactional with a compensation for pain and suffering. So repair would have been, like giving that person money or giving them a pass to a spa day, right? But you don't have to be involved in that. But restoration is more about the relationship and understanding what happened, why the harm occurred, understanding what the actual harm was, because you might have been told that you harmed somebody, but you don't actually even understand how that was harm. And so this is all part of restoring the relationship, healing. This can help with the healing of the other person, and it's relational. So you're going to spend the day with your best friend, or the children are going to tell each other more about what happened and why it hurt, and remember that they love each other, etc. Okay, again, you might want to pause the video and think about restoration and how maybe that's been a difficult thing for you when there's been harm. Maybe there are relationships that were never restored in your life. You never got to that stage, and there wasn't repair either, maybe. But just kind of pause and look around. Your nervous system might be a little bit dysregulated. And then when you're ready, go back. The third one is acknowledgement. And some people might think, well, why wouldn't we have done this right away? And that's because we might not have understood what the harm was, what the effects of the harm were. And so acknowledgement of the harm can come after that restoration. So you're saying, okay, now I understand that I harmed you, and there could be an apology, whatever, but it's acknowledgement. It's saying, yes, I did harm you. And it's wanting to hear the other person admit that they harmed us. So acknowledgement. Pause, because there could be plenty of times where people wouldn't even admit that they hurt you. And there will have been plenty of times that we didn't want to admit that we harmed somebody. Think through this. You can share if you want to in the Facebook group. Links in the description. Okay, the next is cessation. So this is immediate cessation of the actions that cause the harm. Stop hurting that person. Accountability wouldn't be that you compensate, you connect with the person, you acknowledge that you hurt, and then you keep hurting them. That's not accountability. That's not part of a reparations framework. So the hurt needs to stop. Seems obvious, but that needs to be included. And so if someone has to keep apologizing, keep going through this cycle, you haven't achieved reparations, you haven't achieved true accountability because it hasn't stopped. You might have examples in your own life of cycles of harm that have happened. And we could even talk about being accountable to ourselves and the self-harm that we do. Now, it could be quite, like the self-harm that we hear about in the news where people physically hurt themselves with razors, etc. Or it could be the self-harm of not eating well, not taking care of our bodies. How do we hold ourselves accountable for these things? How do we stop? No simple answer here. It's just to flag up how complex all of this is and that we can apply it to ourselves. Pause if you'd like to spend some time on this. Lastly is non-repetition. This is a bit more systemic because it's talking about ending the conditions that produced the harm. So a participant recently gave an example of children fighting, and one of the children noticed that this was happening because they were tired. That's a great insight. So the conditions were such that there's more likely to be conflict. So what we want to do in that case is look at how to change those conditions. Now, because of parental oppression, it might be difficult to figure it out, especially for the parents. But if the kids could go to bed a bit earlier, that might make less conflicts. It's less likely that they're going to have conflict the next morning. Non-repetition end to conditions that produce the harm can be in a workplace, structural things that are creating a hierarchy, and the decision-making process means that people keep being harmed in some way, and so we need to change the infrastructure in that way. Okay, so cessation is stopping it now, and non-repetition is more making sure that it never can happen again because the conditions aren't right. Pause and think about this. And in the next video, we're going to look at bigger cases of harm. I will see you over there shortly.